So, good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another Chatting with Wisdom. And for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Rollie Allaire. Gigido Migwinkwe is my spirit name, and I'm your host of Chatting with Wisdom. Chatting with Wisdom is a weekly interview series featuring amazing women. There are different ways that women are amazing, and we get to celebrate that. I invite you to join me in my private Facebook group, Mind, Body, Heart, and Soul Connection, and you will also find a similar group on Telegram that I've been using to share positivity. And today I would like to welcome Mary McGuire. And so Mary is the creator of the Professional Woman Playbook, the Female Leaders Accelerator, and the author of The Female Edge and Coming Home to You. Her mission is to help women find their authentic success on their own terms. Despite leaving school with no qualifications, with a few prospects, she has built an impressive international career and lifestyle, and is an expert in the field of transformation and female advancement. Using her skills and expertise gained through working with global corporations and high-performing executives, she has distilled her learning into easily applied techniques and processes that she wants to share. She firmly believes that women can find authentic success without compromising their values or ideas. So, welcome. How are you?
Hi, well, thank you for a wonderful introduction there, Rollie. I'm absolutely wonderful. Yes.
So tell me a little bit more about you. So, what is it about you that you are? Um, hang on one second. Something's happening. Oh, technology, technology, technology.
Oh,
I'm just going
absolutely.
to double check. It is saying that we are not live, and
Oh,
I'm
it is
not
saying it's
sure.
live here. I've got still live showing on my window, so I think we are still live.
Yeah, it's live, but it's not going live to the Facebook page. So we're
Ah,
going live to, and I'm not sure how
yeah.
come. So we're going to. So I apologize for those of you who are catching this somewhere else. I just really want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity. So Facebook is always one of those glitchy programs, isn't it? Okay, so now it's saying that is live. So for those of you who are catching this again, then I'm not going to reintroduce when now I can't even remember who I'm talking to. That really distracted me. So, Mary, I was going to call you Wendy for some reason. And so now I'm completely discombobulated. And that's one of the things I think that in business that we need to remember is that sometimes things don't run as smoothly. So I think this is a
Absolutely.
perfect example of that, of being
Mm,
able to grow. So the topic is how to authentically grow your career. And so
mm,
me being authentic is like, yeah, so there's a blip and I'm really sorry about that. So this
mm,
is where things are at and this is where things are going. But I think
mm,
that is one of the things that oftentimes we see is that people hide behind personas, or they hide behind perfectionism. And I don't
mm.
even know if that's part of what it is that you wanted to talk about today, but I think that fits really well with the authenticity. What do you think?
Absolutely. That whole thing about perfectionism is such a fragile suit of armor to wear, and often people see straight through that and see your vulnerabilities anyway, no matter how hard you're trying. So yeah, it's one of the ones we have to shed as early as we can, really. But you were asking me a bit about my background and how I got to this, this subject and where I came from. So obviously you can hear I'm English. I live in England now. I've been in Ireland for about 10 years and then moved back over to England. My name, Mary McGuire, tells you my ethnic heritage is Irish. And I started my career in social work, so working with families in crisis situations and helping to work through difficulties that they were having, either difficulties with young children or with multiple disabilities or other things that were going on. And from that career, I learned to understand people and their situations and read them clearly. And what I found was that people really, really struggle with the whole idea of change. But change is so connected to our growth. It's essential. It's essential that we don't let it let it get in the way of us. But often growth stops when we actually feel fear. And when we start to feel fear, we actually start to restrict our growth. So that's something I brought in from social work into the business world. I then made an unusual step and went into consulting for global corporations on all sorts of things, a lot of it around people issues and organizational structure and strategy, and delivering quite big changes to organizations. And there was something I started to observe very clearly was once we delivered these big changes and these big benefits, the project group was split into two different outcomes. So if they were a man and they'd been on that project group, you'd seen their career accelerate very quickly. If they were women on that project group, you often seen them just moving horizontally or only moving very gradually up their career path. And I found that interesting because I thought, well, both of these sets of people have delivered enormous benefits from these organisations. Why are we seeing such different outcomes? And that led me into asking more questions about why are we seeing more senior leaders as male? Why are we seeing it more that women are struggling to actually either be successful via the corporate ladder or successful in other aspects of their life? And from my social work training, I remembered all of the work that I'd learned about socialization and about the way that we bring up children is very different depending on their gender. And if you're a boy, from very, very early on, there's all sorts of messages you get about being rough and tough and being into games and being competitive and even being a bit aggressive, to show up in such strength. Women and girls particularly, it's very different messages they get about being demure and being pretty and being quiet and thoughtful and supportive and kind. Excellent qualities, I have to say. Both of them have qualities, but it leads to very different behaviours when we're adults, and as a result of that, it leads to very different outcomes in the workplace. So what often happens, and I think that I think it was Giselle in your interview with her a few weeks back when she was talking about her work around career advancement and the Chia app that she'd created, was women tend to get promoted based on their proven experience to do something. Men get promoted based on their potential to do something. Yes. And men and women go into the workplace with very different views. Men go in, who do I know? Who do I need to know? Who are the big people in here? Who are the powerful people? Who do I need to get in front of so they know about me? And women think, how do I make sure I put my head down and do a very good job before I worry about getting to know people? So you can see straight away these two different tracks means that their career goes in two different ways, both in terms of how they're seen in terms of their potential, but also where they're exposed to the opportunities as well. If you're stronger at networking and you're promoted based on potential, your career is going to accelerate quicker. And I just wanted to address that. So that's why I came up with my second book, which is The Female Edge. And that was about helping women through the coaching programs I do understand what are the things they need to be thinking about and doing to feel more comfortable in being empowered in their career and growing their career in a way that still feels authentic to them. So my message isn't don't be feminine, don't be kind, don't be compassionate, don't be supportive. They're great qualities for women to have. But it's like allow yourself to have the insight to know that these qualities plus the way that you express yourself and promote your abilities will be the things that bring you career success. But you can't sit there waiting for people to notice your talent, because the reality is organisations don't notice talent. They notice what's right in front of them straight away and they'll respond to that. And men are just better at being in their face about their career expectations than women.
And I like that, and as much as that is gender specific, because there's like so much information about that gender fluidity, and in order for that to happen is that we need to be able to have these things. And it's a conversation that I had with my son who's having his first baby in March, and one of the things is like he wasn't super excited about being a dad until he found out he was having a boy. And it was like, well, why? Like, why are you super excited about having a boy and you weren't super excited about having a girl? And his response was, and I thought we raised him differently, but his response was, well, what am I supposed to do? Just how am I going to do that? They're going to want to have tea parties. And so, do you not think that your boys are going to want to have tea parties? You guys used to play restaurant. You guys used to have tea parties. Like, and you go, they're only you and your brother. And so he's like, yeah, but it's not the same. And I said, yeah, it is the same. And so, like, we can't put those, and like in terms of chores in the household, he doesn't fall under those categories at in the house. Is that so? They both cook, they both clean. If I cook, you clean, that kind of thing. And so, so like he doesn't have those roles specifically, but it's but in terms of like raising a child, he still has those barriers that it was like, oh, okay, so if you had a daughter, you would be treating her differently. And in my opinion, is that you can't. You have to be treating them the same so that they all have the same opportunities. So apparently, I have a little more work to do on with working with my son, because that is something that's really important. Is that they do have that ability. That it doesn't matter that you're a boy or it doesn't matter that you're a girl. You still have the opportunity if you choose to have that opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's not just, I mean, parenting clearly has an impact here, but it's much wider than that. It's how schooling happens, and how in education we actually have a very strong gender focus in how we educate our children. It's also how it is in society, and the things with the messages we hear. And it's also where we see, power being held as well, and how that affects the bias that gets trickled down in society. So it's everywhere, it's so I can understand from you as a parent feeling responsible, but it's hardwired into every aspect of our life.
Yes, it really is. So what are some of the things in terms of like, so if you're wanting to do some of these advancements, and I know that we've had people on in the past during this year that have shared, because you were sharing that before coming on, is that in some of the other podcasts, there was lots of like things that are like overlapping from one guest to the other. And so but from your perspective, what are some of the things that we can do as women to be able to get that advancement, to get those things kind of moving forward?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll start with a couple of premises, and then I'll share what the model is, which is in the female edge, and essentially that's how we make changes in any part of our life. So my first book, which was Coming Home to You, was very much about personal development. Female Edge is about career development. Change happens through action. And that's obvious, except it's not obvious. We often think change happens through, us having an idea, or us going on a training course and learning about new things, or hearing from somebody about how things can be done differently. Anything that's going on at the plane of mind is potential. Anything that goes on in terms of our actual behaviour, therefore action, is the things that make the change. So I'm always focusing on how do we move to action quickly. We get an insight, we get a new idea. How do we put it into practice quickly so that we can then learn from it and develop it? And that's very much the strong way that when I'm working with women, when we're looking at change, that's what we're looking to do. So I looked at how can I create a model that does that. So the Female Edge is centered around the model called the Edge model, which is based on the way that I do my coaching programs. And the Edge model, four steps. The first one is evaluate what got you here. So how the hell did I get here in my career? I wanted to be a train driver, and now I'm working in a kitchen. So the evaluate what got you here. That insight is enormous in itself, in terms of, what were the things, what were the decisions and the influences along the way that got me to where I am now. Once we understand that, we can go to the D, which is decide where you want to go. Start thinking of your career in chunks of 1 year, 3 year, 5 year periods. And where do I want it to be? What are the things I want to do? Do I want to get it back on track to be that train driver? Or do I have a different view of what's important to me, and are there other goals I want to set? But starting to think about it in terms of a structure and a timeline. Because the reality is careers don't change quickly. I mean, sometimes they do, when we suddenly get an opportunity that we didn't expect and it brings us to our dream job. But that's like 1 in a million. It doesn't happen that much. We have to be more intentional. Once we've done that, we go to the next one, which is G, grow into the ideal leader that you want to be. So that's about, how do I develop the skills and the abilities and the behaviors and the mindsets that allow me to be ready for the role that I want to move into, or the career, or the entrepreneurship, whatever it might be. But how do I start thinking about that in terms of what are the skills and doing that? And then the final one, the E, is empower your success. So what are the habits? What are the routines? Who are the people around me that will help me to empower my success and keep me going and keep the momentum going, especially during tough times or when we hit bumps in the road? Because we all hit bumps in the road, as you showed earlier. Things go wrong. Things go wrong when we're trying to go live. Things go wrong when we're in a presentation or in an important conversation, or we miss an opportunity with someone. That's just life. And it's like empowering our successes, building up our resilience and building up our strength to be able to deal with that.
Absolutely. And so for those of you who are on Facebook or YouTube, I have shared the links to both. I actually went and searched up your other book, because I did have the links from you for the Female Edge, but I did put in the link for coming to home to you as well. The one that you talked about for personal development. And Natalie says the mindset is so important, and it's nice to see you too, Natalie. So, but yes, so it's, and it's so important for us to be able to have that mindset of being able to shift. And like the other points that you talked about, like being able to tap into our empowerment. And these are all things that are so important. And a lot of times we kind of take a step back for whatever reason, right? So,
yeah.
It's, and
and I want to build on something that from your previous interview with Giselle, who talks about chia, and that one of the things that she said, and I think this is very true, is we often forget how much we've already done and achieved, and the skills we've got and the value we already bring, and we often downplay that. Now, to be fair, I think lots of people do that. That's not just a female thing, but I think women do it more than men. Proportionately, women do it more than men. Men do it as well at times. But we downplay what we already have as values or inherent skills. If you're a parent and you're running your home and you've got a career, or you're running your business, there's a huge amount of skills. There's a huge amount of juggling and prioritizing and getting things done through the day, empowering through tough days. There are skills, inherent skills there, that often we're not good at recognizing and actually showcasing to other people.
And it's really important for us to be able to do that. And so, being able to take things one step at a time. But one of the things that I think is also really important is that when we recognize that we are, because we do these shifts of like moving ahead, stepping back, moving ahead and stepping back. And that when we do move ahead, is being able to remember that and there's the expression of we never step into a river the same time twice. You never step into the same river twice, is I think how the expression goes. Yeah. And Natalie, actually, who's actually listening right now, one of the things, and I love her expression as well, is that we move up a spiral staircase, and when we stop, we're still in that same space. We're always continuously moving up, that we're never starting from the bottom of that staircase again. Even when we stop on that landing, we're ready to move ahead and take that next step. So we never start again at the bottom of the rail.
So, yeah, absolutely.
Yes. She says, "Oh yes, the spiral staircase." Right?
Yeah, it's a great analogy. Yeah.
And it's really important for us to be able to remember that when like you talked about the steps, you talked about the things that we need to be doing, but when we realize that we've taken a step back and taken a step for us to be able to stop, is that we get to move ahead again, and we get to be able to keep going, and we never stop. And we're always continuously moving forward, no matter where our path goes. I was speaking with somebody yesterday who was talking about all these different shifts in her careers that she's taken, right? So she worked in one particular area for 5 to 10 years, and then she worked in another area in her life for another 5 to 10 years, and then for 23 years she was a police officer, and now she's a transformational coach. And so all of those things all led to where she is right now. And if in 10 years from now she makes another shift, it's all based on all of these things that she's kind of gone through. And
Yeah,
so I think that that's something
absolutely.
to remember as well.
Mm,
Like sometimes people look at it and go, oh, this isn't where I wanted to be. So then change it, make that
yeah,
change,
yeah.
right?
Absolutely. I mean, I think if there's one thing I always encourage women to do is be intentional about your career. So often we just allow it to happen around us. It's like, oh, well, the first job I got was, with a family firm down the road, and that seemed to work out well. And I've been here for 15 years and I'm not that happy in the job, but it's easy.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you're only going to get out of your career what you put in. So if there's no intention, no clarity, no goals, you're probably going to find that it doesn't actually go in any particular direction. But it's like anything in life. If we want to achieve certain things, if we want to do certain things, we have to really be intentional about what does that look like? What does success look like for me?
Yeah.
And it isn't always, I've talked about it in corporate, but there's lots of ways that we have success in our career. It's not always about climbing the corporate ladder, and sometimes that's not always good for us. It could be going off on our own, becoming a freelancer, becoming a solopreneur, or going into a startup company, or it could be a whole mixture of things. But we only understand that when we do the work, which is reflecting on, what we've done so far and what's important to us. And we become more authentic in ourselves when we become more honest about what's important to us. And when we become more honest about what's important to us, we can start to draw experiences towards us which are more important to us. So it's this wonderful circle, a virtuous circle that goes up the spiral staircase thing. The more we actually take control and actually set some expectations for ourselves.
And I think that that's really important as well. And one of the things, I wrote it down because I didn't want to forget, because you have some really great insight as to where things are. But one of the things that you said is, what does success look like for me? And I think that that is like really important for us to be able to key in, is that what does it look like for me? Not for what does it look like for my parent? What does it look like for my
No.
spouse? What does
Mm,
it look like for my friends? It's what does that success look like for me? And so that part I think is really important, because we get so wrapped up sometimes in what everybody else thinks success is supposed to look like. Maybe success is only supposed to look like 5 clients. Maybe success
mm,
is only supposed to look like being able to share your wisdom and provide that information. But it's what does it look like for you is what part of it is really important. And I've worked with different entrepreneurs over the years that we've partnered up and we've gotten ready to like do a program together, and then, oh, well, we only have 10 clients, so we're going to cancel. Okay, why are we going to cancel? We have 10 clients,
yeah.
right? So, like, to me, we have 10 clients. That's success.
Mm,
And
yeah.
so, yes, we may need to adapt, or we may need to shift, or we may need to change the way that we were going to present, or how we were going to partner up, or what it is that we were going to be doing. But it's still a success because we had 10 people. Whereas other
Mm,
people are like, yeah, well, it wasn't 50 like we were supposed to. So we're done. We're not doing it now. And it doesn't mean
mm,
that either one of them are wrong. It's just, what does it look like for you? Right.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
where do you want
Absolutely.
to be able to shift, and where do you want to be able to change in what it is that you're doing?
Mm. And also it's that thing, and I think that COVID has been a serious interrupter in the way that we think about work and career as well.
Yeah.
Is it always the 50-hour, 70-hour week in a corporate job, or is it going part-time? I know it's not so strong well, not so much in Canada. I think you're quite good, but certainly in America. But is it going part-time, only working 2 or 3 days a week? Much more common over here in Europe. And then having a side hustle of painting or drawing or some creative craft outlet that you then sell on a craft fair, once a month, and maybe for much less money, but for much more life satisfaction and much more time with the family and much more life enhancement. And the authenticity isn't always about the external financial success. It's as much about the internal fulfillment.
And having that satisfaction, because like you said, working in a job for like 20 years or 30 years and never being satisfied, and always having to, oh, I have to get up and go to work this morning.
Yeah.
Right. So like that's not enjoyable. That's not fun.
Mm.
That's not interactive. And there are different parts of my job that I go, oh, I have to do that today. I don't want to do
Mm.
that. But for the most part, I enjoy being able to step in,
Yeah.
and I enjoy the energy, and I enjoy
Mm.
being able to do these interviews and having my sessions with my clients and having those communications. And so I think that it's important for us to be able to remember all of those, like you said, that those internal satisfactions, because if we don't have those
Mm.
internal satisfactions, we have no motivation to want to make things and change things, and to be able to have that insight of what it is that we can do, and how grand that we can potentially be, right?
Mm. Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's so important. So, yeah, so that's often what I'm encouraging women to do is start to think more about, well, what does it look like for me, and how do I move towards that? And it doesn't need to be big steps. Sometimes it can be much smaller steps. So it might be, if I'm somebody who always works late to get that report absolutely right and perfect, word perfect before I leave, and I'm an hour and a half later leaving the office, is saying, no, I'm going to set a boundary of leaving at 5. I'm going to leave myself some mental energy to spend with something that's more life enhancing for me in the evening. And that might be through music or through art or through meditation, walking, in the countryside, whatever it might be. It's like, but I'm going to invest back so that I can actually find some time and actually let go of some of the investment and heavy perfectionism, which is going into a corporation or an employer that doesn't actually value what I'm giving them, or doesn't fully value what I'm giving them.
Yeah.
So it's that sort of understanding of, we are the product, me as an individual, I'm a product, but as a being, and I'm a product in terms of going out and sharing my talent and my skills. And if we don't treat that product with respect, so that also means giving it back its time and its energy and its motivation, it becomes devalued, it becomes less effective, it becomes less attractive as well. So we need to think about ourselves in that way as well, as how do we invest, not by always giving it out, to an employer that doesn't value us as much as we value ourselves. And maybe we've stopped valuing ourselves because they haven't valued us.
And I think that that's also really important as well, is that value, and what does that look like. But the other thing that was really interesting that you had said is like that we're going to stay behind for an hour and a half, and we're going to plug away and try and get this thing perfect. But a lot of times, if we actually go and live our lives and be fulfilled and get the rest that we need, when we come back in the morning, we can actually, a lot of times, 99% of the time, is be able to like pick it up very quickly, and we have fresh eyes, fresh view, fresh outlook on being able to get it done. And it's just and it's incredible, that different perspective, right? So
yeah, completely much better way of doing it.
but it also is about balance. So that's what it is that I've heard, right? So like leaving at 5 o'clock, if you're supposed to be done at 5, that you leave at 5 o'clock so that you can go and have something that will actually nourish your soul or your body, whatever it is that looks like. I have some people who like leave work and immediately go to the gym so that they can actually work out, and that they can rest, and you're not resting when you're working out, but you're getting you're going to have more of a restful sleep, and you're going to have more of that clear mind, and being able to have that a different perspective as you shift into going home and preparing dinner and looking after the household and getting laundry done and all that other stuff that comes with our regular day, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it makes that difference as to how we're going to take a look at it. So is there anything else that you think that is really important for people, to women in particular, to be able to look forward, and how to make some more shifts or make it some more changes?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a couple of simple actions that they can just do straight away. And then I've got a couple of resources on my website that they don't need to sign in to do. They can just download them and they're there. So the simple thing they can do is, anyone who's listening right now or listening on playback is just get a plain sheet of paper and they split it into down the middle. And then they put on the left-hand side things I like about my work at the moment. And then on the right hand side things I don't like about my work at the moment, and just spend some time actually thinking that through. What are the things that really light me up, get me excited, that I really enjoy, and then what are the things that are not so good? And then just take some time to reflect about, is there anything I can do to either make sure there's more of them on the like side, or learn to be more comfortable with the things I don't like if they're inherent to my job, but I can feel a bit more motivated about them. So just spending some time reflecting on, how is my work at the moment and how can I make that more enjoyable or more motivating for me? It probably would take people 10 minutes, but that sitting down and writing brings huge reflection and really helps people to understand, what's possible. And sometimes it can be simple conversations with their co-workers or with their bosses. It might be with a co-worker about, I really don't like this aspect of what we need to do, but I know you don't like this and I love doing that. Can we swap a bit and you do a bit more of this and I'll do a bit more of that? Or it might be with the boss saying, can I have more opportunities to do this, please? Because this is really good. So it just gives us opportunities to maybe navigate into a space which makes it just that bit more enjoyable.
And it really does make a difference. And so I was having a session with somebody yesterday who was sharing their product and their service that they have. And so there was one area that we were going through, and because it's a platform that they were introducing. And so as they were talking about the different things, they're like, and what about this part? And like, so you would, is this something that would interest you? And I'm like, not me. My VA possibly, but definitely not me. But like,
yeah,
go ahead and share.
exactly,
Share that on,
exactly.
right?
Yeah,
So
yeah. There's a reason us coaches have assistants, and it's because we know what we're not good at.
and so if I'm plugging away at something, oftentimes she'll say, "Did you want me to take that over?" Absolutely.
Yeah.
if it's an area that you can take over, absolutely. But here's my list of things that I have to be doing today. So what do you need from me? And so she takes over the rest of the other things that are and she's good at it. And whereas it takes me, where she'll get something to me within a half an hour that I would have been taking like 3 hours, and I'm still going to be trying to figure it out and work it through, right? So, and it really is. And so even at workplaces where it's possible, because sometimes we can't always, but depending on where it is, and it's possible. So like if you and being able to say, okay, well, I'll take over this side, you can do that part, and we can do all these things, and we can get it done a lot faster and more efficiently, right? So I think that that's another key thing. So whether it's in your own business or it is where you are working, is that if you can actually do things that where everybody gets to have that that different way of doing things, right? So for me, when I've worked at different places, it was like, okay, you deal with the customers, and I'll deal with that, with sorting things in the back. And it's like, okay, perfect. I'll deal with the customers, not a big deal. Whereas that it was like, oh, I don't want to have to deal with the customers, right? So then you get that, they have that anxiety, and not that they didn't ever deal with the customers, but I did have a coworker that would be one of the things, like, I'll do this and you can do that. Or, you know what, if you work on this thing, I can actually organize the filing cabinet so that we can actually find things a lot easier. And so I'll do this, and so on and so forth. So like you can actually find different ways when you have good relations with your coworkers, and being able to have that that connection, right? So I'm really good at this, so let's do that instead, right? So so I love that.
Absolutely.
I love that suggestion. I never even thought about that as being that opportunity for us to be able to have that being able to grow our career in that respect. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
So is there anything else that you think that is important? So I did share your website link. So for those who are on Facebook and YouTube, is that I did share the link for the for Mary's website in the comments. It is in the description for wherever it is that you're listening to this. And however, you'll notice that I actually posted it twice, because on YouTube, the link for whatever reason, ended up being stuck together with the word website. So it makes things a little bit more challenging to link. I like having the push the button so
Yeah.
that I can go find what I'm looking for. And I noticed
Mm.
that it was stuck together. So then I reposted just the website for those of you who are going like, why'd you share that again? That's the reason why.
Yeah,
So
that's technology.
there's that perfectionism thing that I was talking
Yeah.
about, right? And
Yeah.
for me, it's just
Yeah.
about facilitating, making things easier for people to find things. So,
and I was just going to say, in the link that we've shared with everyone, so thank you very much for sharing that, is that there's 2 tools which are downloadable, which are based on the evaluate what got you here, define where you want to go. There's a career mapping exercise. It's a simple downloadable. And then the other one is a career compass, which is more about how do we navigate our career based on our values, and how do we understand what our values are so that we can express them clearly to other people. So the 2 tools, the 2 most popular tools that my clients work with and find the most value from. So they're just available there if people wanted to do a bit more reflection and evaluation about their career.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Mary. And this was fabulous and so insightful. And I love how I really honor you for having taken the time to say, hey, a few weeks back we had somebody else that actually shared this, and this is how this works together. And I really appreciate that, because it really is about women empowering women, and being able to see and specifically talk about those overlaps, I think is really important. And so I commend you on that. So thank you very much for that as well. So for those of you who will be catching the next Chatting with Wisdom, I will see you next week, and have a fabulous day. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye.